I am joined by Laure Jackson as ever. As we talk about sensory health. Anne is, of course, an occupational therapist from Jersey. Her specialty is sensory health, and we talk about that. And this is our 100th and first such conversation. Hello, Anne.
Hello, good to be here. Oh, so we're still pulling it out. We're still making the most that we've just passed the 100 mark. I like that.
Oh, but it's an accomplishment, and we need to mark things sometimes. Yesterday, we were marking the launch of our Pure Men's mag. We had a fire pit, we had a bacon butty, we had a live stream, and we had some fun with it because we're marking the start of something, and we do need to mark stuff. Otherwise, within a week, we've forgotten what it was that we got excited about, that we were excited about, that's now kind of slipped out of our mind because 1,001 other things have all come in.
Yeah, and it's holding on to those enjoyment factors, those little things that just boost our mood for a moment in time, and it's good.
Which really, really matters. Now, I wanted to talk to you about something that we're going to be doing tomorrow as we record this live on my Drive Time show, because Nathan and I will be going down to London tomorrow. Now, we've spoken at length a little bit, you and I, about travel, whether it's air travel or getting on a bus or a train, some of the specific sensory healthy elements that might struggle with. Tomorrow, a very, very special day. Nathan and I are going to a performance of The Passion of the Christ, created by Wintershall, held in Trafalgar Square with maybe 10 or 20,000 other people. Now, we're going as press, so we're going to be slightly removed from some of it, so we can get a really good look for photos and stuff. But I thought it might make a really interesting topic today, not so much the transport, although that's probably a part of it, but actually going to a very large outdoor performance full of emotion, because it's going to be looking at Jesus dying and being nailed to a cross, which is going to be emotional, or it should be. But it's all of that from a sensory healthy perspective, and how we may best work hard, because we're not actually there just to watch the performance. We're there to take photos and chat to folk as well. But how would one make that the best experience we possibly can, bearing in mind no chairs, 10 or 20,000 people, 90 minutes or so of performance. So that's my topic for today for you.
Wow, what an experience to come up. That's going to be incredible, quite phenomenal. Yeah, I personally I can't choose to watch it. I just think it might just be a bit too, I don't need anything more real for me, but that experience is going to be remarkable.
Yeah.
Quite, but when you said there was no chairs, that was my first thing when you said, outdoor, lots of people, and goodness me, like no chairs. So yeah, the camping ones, if you're allowed, I don't even know what restrictions they have or don't have, but you need to keep moving. I mean, that sounds a bit of an oxymoron when we're talking about taking a chair, but it's the fact that to stand still and upright for that period of time, if you're squashed in with other people, you're going to have to do exercises to keep your proprioceptive system, you keep your vestibular system alert. Yes, your eyes are going to be distracted, and that is the power of screens. So you will be able to override a lot of the uncomfortableness that comes with not having a lot of space, to move, or you might get being bumped. But your eyes will override that. So that is one positive, because of what's going on the screen. But I would definitely suggest you. What was that?
This is a theatre, it's not a TV thing. This is 100 cast members acting out the last days of Jesus.
Oh wow! You still have the same visual input, so at least you've got the vision to overtake it. But it's in a theatre where you're standing.
No, in Trafalgar Square, in the open air, with a cast of about 100.
Okay, we're getting there now.
Sorry, I could have perhaps said that better, couldn't I?
Yeah. Oh, so the whole live element is going to be phenomenal too. But yeah, a combination of making sure that you are supported from a proprioceptive vestibular perspective, of either sitting or doing those exercises, squeezing. Those concentric muscle exercises are really good. Squeezing and relaxing, because the blood is not going to be pumping. You're not going to be working the muscles which pump the blood around your body. So while you are engrossed in what you're watching, it's checking and just even swaying side to side, or just moving the hips slightly if you've got room to do that. just to keep things alert, alive, and to keep the blood pumping. But the sights and the sounds and the smells are going to be quite phenomenal too.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't explain that very well, did I? Because The Passion of the Christ, of course, is a film by Mel Gibson. This is a performance play written by a guy who, this is the 15th year, actually, this particular performance in Trafalgar Square with 10 or 20,000 people. There will be giant screens, I'm told, because 20,000 people, not everyone's going to be able to watch everything that's going on. So quite a few folk will apparently just gravitate towards watching on the screens. We'll be in a specific spot so we get a really good look at the whole thing so we can take photos. That's kind of why we've been invited to attend. But it's going to be emotional. It's going to be cold because we're standing still. I mean, even if it's a hot day, which it's not yet, that might be a different particular set of problems to encounter. Tomorrow, probably this time of year, where are we? 3rd of April, it could be quite chilly, quite cold, especially if you're standing for a long period of time. And like you say, you can't get the blood pumping by going off for a walk, because if we go for a walk and we interrupt the play, we'll get thrown out, I would imagine. You wouldn't want to do that. So you have to be careful and respectful of the sort of the conditions and parameters that are set for us to be able to engage with what's going on without interrupting anybody's enjoyment. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge because it's going to be very emotional. I wouldn't ordinarily go out of my way to watch something like this, but I am looking forward to it because I've never actually seen anything like this. Not really.
And I think it'd be curious with the kind of sights, not the sights, but the sounds and what the auditory experience is going to be like. If they've got screens, they're obviously, well, they've obviously mic'd it up anyway, but it'd be fascinating to see just quite what surround sound they have in Trafalgar Square and how they do all of that.
I don't know. I will tell you next week. I literally have no concept of how this is going to work other than Trafalgar Square, no seats, people will sit on the ground. There'll be big screens. There's a cast of around 100 people. There's a proper director. It's all properly written and all that sort of thing. But I don't know. I'll let you know next week, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I can't conceive in my mind how it could work other than there's microphones, there'll be speakers, and there's a big screen. That's all I can really... That's a bit vague.
And if you did have sensory needs, that would be, you'd need more than that, because it's just like, what is the sound system? I mean, you'd probably pack your ear defenders or your earplugs and stuff as well. But, you know, for whether you'd want your sunglasses, at what time, you know, is it during the day? Is it in the evening?
Early afternoon.
Early afternoon. Yeah. So that could be a really bright experience for some. So yeah, some eye protection or some, depending what you're like seeing when it's bright out there. And the temperature is going to be interesting because there's lots of you there, so it should technically be warm. However, it is still April
UK.
In the UK. And I don't know if we do rain tomorrow. That wouldn't be.
I think light rain, but it's London, which has its own weather climate anyway. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll be honest. It's a really horrible to say. I'm looking forward to going to watch Jesus being killed, which is effectively what we're going to do. I'm really, really glad that it's being shown. I was sharing a bit earlier how this is a Christian nation. It's been signed as a legal piece of paper that says this is a Christian country. Therefore, it's really good that we are on Good Friday actually marking what Jesus did historically, sort of two and a bit thousand years ago, and actually having that played out, I think, is really important. A lot of people will be there. The cast is made of people of faith and some of none, who are all part of this massive production. I mean, there's 100 cast members. I can't contrive in my head how many people will be making that work. If you've got 100 people, essentially not a stage, but if there's 100 people on the stage, so to speak, how many more are behind the scenes making it all happen? I don't know. So there's a lot going on. There'll be noises because it's an outdoor production. So there's going to be sounds of the soldiers and whatever else is going on. So, I was just sort of curious about some of the sensory healthy elements of the fact we'll be up at 4 a.m. We're leaving at 5. So by 1 o'clock when this starts, we're going to be quite tired. But here's an example that I thought of. We're going to take some spare batteries for the camera because if they get a bit cold, they won't work very well. They get a bit sluggish. The life of the battery starts to degrade. So we'll keep those probably in pockets so they're as warm as we can make them. But of course, if you're a person, it's no different. If you get cold, you're going to get a bit sluggish and, well, you're not going to go quite so well because now your body's working even harder to do the normal things that you would normally do. So we're taking a bunch of spare batteries for the camera and for ourselves, spare food, spare fluids, because otherwise we're going to run out of steam, quite literally.
Yeah, totally. But what I really love, and what it's reminded me of what you're talking about is our church here, the church literally that we have taken over. Our church has taken over a cinema. So when I was a little girl, on Good Friday or thereabouts, we would always go in, and the cinema would put on films for us. And the very first one that was so powerful for me was Chariots of Fire. And you think, what a great example over the Easter season of just people's lives being changed by the story and what they do and what they don't do in relation to, what Christ did for us. So, that was always a really strong, intense, powerful memory for me, sitting and actually watching this was obviously a film rather than a theatre, but it's good. It's good that we do these things.
Which then goes on to a slightly different element of this, because cinema is a flat, it's a two-dimensional object that creates a three-dimensional world. Four-dimensional now is a thing in cinemas. Of course, you've got noise, and they can spray things at you and all sorts of crazy stuff to make you feel like you're fully immersed. In a theatre, it's slightly different. The pace is always going to be much slower, which I like, because you've got actual people doing it. It's not fake, it's not computerized. It's real people, and they can only work as fast as me, which means I can follow along much happier. In terms of a theatre production, though, what might be the differences for somebody who perhaps struggles with a cinema and they want to go and experience some form of delivered entertainment? Let's sort of phrase it that way. Why might a theatre be better or worse for people who are struggling with their sensory health if a cinematic experience maybe is too much for them?
Yeah, that's a very fascinating difference. And it's really important to make those differentiations, because the one thing that is the downside of theatre for some people is that the fact that it's live, it is totally reliant on the people and the props and what happens on the day, and the spontaneity of it all can be very, very difficult. So it was much better. If people are going to go to the theatre, it's always worth asking, has it actually been pre-recorded? Some plays are very strict as to what they do and how they do it. It's exactly the same thing every single night. And then there are others that have that freedom, much more ad lib, much more spontaneity. And that can be really tricky for some people. So it's trying to find the good fit, because at least in the cinema, if you've seen the film in the TV first, then you know exactly what's coming up, or you can prepare exactly what's coming up. If you think things are going to be a bit louder, because the cinema will really play into that because of its phenomenal sound systems, then you can prepare for that and get ready for that when you come to the cinema. And often, actually, because it is so immersive, a lot of people will cope better rather than in a theatre where there might be lots of other unpredictable noises going on. And other people, their pitch, their sound, their volume with which they speak, it's not been processed in the same way that a film has. So all of that unpredictability can be tricky, really, really tricky. But for others who are much more the sensory seekers and the sensory cravers, then as long as they can either move or they just have that free humanity, and that, as you say, we can only, as individuals, most of us go at a certain pace. We communicate with people from the stage at a pace that they can understand. Whereas if it's cinematized and videoed, we can edit really, really fast and do all of that. And you don't get that same impact, or at least it's lessened a lot when it's live and when it's real people, because the way that actors will work is the same way that we perceive, because we're all working on that human level with much less technical interference, I think, to change the sensory, what's the word I'm looking for? The sensory aspect, I suppose, of that. So yeah, the human. Yeah, if you can cope with unpredictability, then go human. If you prefer to know exactly what's happening and it's the same thing and you can watch it and pre-record it, well, then the cinema might be a better choice for you.
You see, that was really fascinating, because I'd have gone the other way in my mind, saying theatre would have been better. than a cinema could. But I had thought of none of the stuff about the predictability is of, I've watched a film at home, I know how it works. If I go to the cinema, it's just going to be a better sound, a better quality video of what I know.
Yeah.
Something now you've said it. But the theatre, of course, yeah, there's always going to be a slight difference. It's never going to be perfectly the same. If you copy a film 10 times, it's going to be the same 10 times. You do a theatre production 7 days in a week, everyone is going to be slightly different. Yeah, they're not going to change masses of it, but someone's going to miss a step. Someone's going to drop something that's going to roll the way they didn't intend to, and they have to carry on. Or they might do a bit of general improv. I mean, I've seen that or read of that as well, where they deliberately have moments of the theatre where they're like, we don't know where it's going to go. We're going to get engaged. And depending on the audience and how they engage, well, that's going to dictate the flow and the rest of the feel.
And audience participation, especially when if there's children there and they want to get you cheering. Oh man, that is so overwhelming. And it's just like, or, the whole, if you head into panto and he's behind you, and that's really hard. For lots of my people to have to cope with that. So if you are choosing theatre again, it is finding one where it is more structured, and you will know if there's audience participation required. And also, because you may, even from a tactile perspective, if you've got people walking up and down the aisle because they're not just purely on the stage, but they're actually moving and milling around, or they're wanting to pull people out of the audience and onto the stage, you've got all that unpredictable touch. So if you are hyperreactive, if you're oversensitive in your touch system, that's not going to be a pleasant experience either. You're going to be put on high alert, or you're just going to be really uncomfortable or get really hot and sweaty. And there's so many other sides of it that are not helpful. Unless you can afford a theatre box, or if your place has a theatre box, well, then that might be a slightly different experience because you're able to control that environment a little bit more.
Now, I don't like pantomimes for a whole bunch of reasons. One of them, they are very wildly different reasons. One of them is that shouting, that screaming, some of the sort of, I'm going to say terror in the lightest possible sense, because they're not deliberately trying to scare you out of your wits, but there is sort of a little bit of terror because they're behind you, and I don't like that stuff. That's why I don't watch horror films, can't cope with them, don't watch anything with any kind of dramatic terror scenes or whatever. I can't handle it because I really don't like it. I don't mind action films and comedy and all that, but if it's anything where it's designed to make you jump a little bit, then I don't want to know. And pantomimes, for me, to be honest, it's that. It's deliberately he's behind you and someone jumps out and scares people, and I don't like that. It doesn't sit well with me. My heart and my stomach don't like it. I really get on edge and agitated. So that's one of the predominant reasons for me why I would never ever want to go or enjoy a pantomime. It's the unpredictability of people, and like you say, getting people riled up. I've done this in church services. You get people a bit more excited, and that's great. But there's a limit to what I would do, because I don't want screaming. Because screaming can literally hurt. It can cause headaches. It can cause you damage to your ears, and it can be really horrible. So I know that that's happened because I've been there, and it's almost like they want sort of the stereotypical girl screams going on, and you know what? I don't like that at all. Why? We don't need that.
Yeah, it is. It's the why. Somebody obviously started it at some point, and then people carried it on. But it is like a why. It's a most bizarre thing.
No, it totally is. I did an all-age service. It was a Christingle, a church, like 800 people nearly turning up, and we had a bit of a getting people, into what we were doing, a bit of excitement. But we only went so far with it, because why would you want to get people so tizzed up that screaming happens? Because it's horrible.
No good for the auditory processing. No good for your regulation. And yes.
No, there you are. I didn't think we were going to get to pantomimes, but hey, talked about theatre, I suppose. So, I know I went to see the musical Time many, many, many years ago. With Sir Laurence Olivier was in it, and it was an amazing experience. But in some ways, as I look back now, having had this conversation, I remember it is almost more immersive than a cinematic experience with 3D surround sound, because that kind of it gets into your stomach with the bass, because the low frequency, it sort of travels through the room. But actually, the musical, in some ways, it was even more immersive because you could smell the smoke, which they used at various times. You can feel the heat of there was a spotlight not far from my head that was pointing down. I could feel that getting hot because this is 35, 40 years ago. And actually, as I'm thinking about now, it was a lot more immersive. And for me, I quite enjoyed that immersion of the whole thing and the immersive experience. But I also remember how exciting it was just to see real people, which for me trumps cinema every time.
Yeah. There's if you can cope with it, you just connect. You can just connect with people. You perceive things on such a different level when you are face to face or in the room, as they say, even if it is 20,000 of you. But it's that live element of something that's really hard to put our hands on. But it's a sense that, yeah, it's not one of my 8 senses. But it's definitely that sense of humanity. There's a connection. And you can tell if it's instinctive whether you think, oh yeah, they're really good, actor, or oh dearie me, they really should find another job, or there's things that you can sense that you can't pick up or that you can't describe, but there's something very real and genuine, and even though it's acting, but just because it's humans rather than a portrayal off through some pixels.
Now, let me take a complete left turn on this one. Fire pits, barbecues, campfires, because this is what we were doing yesterday. I wanted to touch on this a little bit for 2 specific reasons. One of which, the smoke changed direction. We had this lovely fire. We threw on some old pine cones, pine needles and stuff and branches we had from a saved up Christmas tree from a couple of Christmases ago. And at one point it was smoking quite heavily. And then the wind changed. It blew it into my eyes. I literally couldn't see. I just stood still thinking, I know there's a fire near me. I'm not stupid. Until my eyes could see again, because the smoke just went straight into my face. I had a shower this morning and all I could smell on my beard, which was bizarre, never had this concept before, was the smell of the smoke. And it conjured up all the good memories of sitting around a camp, well, not a campfire, it was a fire pit for us yesterday, but it's the same principle, fire pit, barbecue, or whatever.
Oh, give me smoke smell anytime. I just love it. I haven't had a bad experience with a fire. I understand if you do that's, you'd want to avoid that, for sure. But if you've had positive experiences, the smell, I love the smell more than anything. I mean, I do love the crackle. I do love the sights. You can sit and watch a fire for ages and it's so beautifully social that you can just sit around and chat or sing or whatever you want to do, but it will just be quiet and do nothing, but just watch, because it's beautiful, for the eyes to see, but it is the smell of a fire, especially if you've got pine cones. That would be a real treat for me. I loved that whenever we were out and we could. And my son's left his fire pit here in the house, so he's moved out, but he can't take his fire pit with him. So we are definitely going to be enjoying a fire pit, and toast his good health, while we enjoy the sights and the sounds and the smells. Smoke's gorgeous.
There was a moment where the 5 of us were sitting looking around the fire pit. We'd finished the radio show, the live stream had ended, and we were just out there. It was about 9 o'clock at night, 9:30. So it's gone a bit chilly, slightly, it's not cold, it's a little bit less warm. You've got a little bit of breeze in the air, and we were just sitting, and there was a moment, I don't even know how long it lasted. It felt so precious. 5 of us just sat there saying nothing, which is a separate conversation, looking at the fire. And of course, as you look at the fire, the flame is never the same. It's always moving around. If you look at the embers, they're sort of going gold and red, orange, black, white, and sort of fluctuating in a beautiful waving kind of motion as they do that. And even that was relaxing. But there was just this moment of sitting in utter silence. We work really hard, usually on digital screens. That's part of what we do. So it's just nice to watch a non-digital screen, but in a sense, a better screen because it's actually fully interactive.
Yeah. The precious moments, and so sensory. The whole experience is sensory with the wind and the temperature and the visual environment as the sun goes down, and you get beautiful colors in that golden hour too, and then you get the sight, the sound, the sounds, and the smells. I have to say that the smoke smell from a fire is similar to that. To my other favorite smell is of cut grass. So I am so happy when spring arrives. So much part of it because of the amount of grass that gets cut. And I'm very happy. I don't really go around driving in the car just to smell some cut grass, but I definitely open the window to see, while I'm out and about doing my thing, do I get a lovely scent of the cut grass.
And it was lovely. We had some kiln dried logs which we used because they would burn really, really well, which was the whole point for the live stream. And we had some old bits of wood that we found knocking about. We've saved those, and they burned differently. They smelled different. We had the pine branches from the Christmas tree, cut those up. They went on. You get this lovely mad sound of the crackling going ballistic as all the little pine needles burst into flame. Then you feel the heat. You've got the light. Then the moon came out, and there was so much sensory enjoyable stuff. It wasn't an overload. It was a really good, there's lots and lots of it, and I guess that's the point. Sometimes the sensory experiences that we might face on a day-to-day basis, we don't have a fire pit on a day-to-day basis, but it's not that uncommon. But there is a limit to when we feel full, as opposed to now that's too much and I just want to go and find a darkened room and lie down.
And I'd be curious to see for listeners just how much, when it is natural, how much more we can tolerate, because everything there that you were describing was natural between the moon and the weather and the fire and all the rest of it. It's when we get all this artificial stimulation, that's where we are really suffering as humanity, as humans, because the overload is so much. It's so much easier to reach that threshold of overload because it is synthetic, because it's orchestrated, because it's not natural. In the natural world, it's beautifully designed for us to live in and function with very little overload on a normal circumstance.
So we lit the fire around 4:10. We had to put the fire out with water, which wasn't my preferred thing, at around 10 to midnight. And we were out there pretty much the whole time. We only came in because it's 10 to midnight. We kind of have to go to sleep soon because we've got a day tomorrow. But the fire was so beautiful. In the end, it was just myself, Nathan and Joe just sat out there around it. Stephen had to go to bed because he had the breakfast show, and Peter went to bed. And it was just really enjoyable just sitting there. You get a bit closer over time because the heat doesn't quite go so far. But it was beautiful, and we just sat there. But the thing that I especially valued was the times of absolute silence from us, and all you have is a little gentle. It's not even a crackle; it's like a subdued crackle from the fire, because all the really raw wood has been now condensed. It's more like charcoal, kinda. So you get this lovely little warm thing, and then you get a wave of heat when the breeze comes to you, and the breeze kicks up and it fans the fire. And yeah, many hours. 4 o'clock till about midnight last night when we had to get rid of it, which we were gutted by, but also we weren't going to leave a live fire outside.
Yeah. Wow. What a lovely time. Moments, aren't they? Just to say that.
It's precious. We need to create moments for those things to happen. There's nothing wrong with scheduling some spontaneity. That's fine. We did that last night. We scheduled a fire pit, and we scheduled that we're going to sit outside and had a really great time with lots of spontaneous chats. So there's nothing wrong with actually building in that spontaneity into your life. It's a good thing because you're creating moments, and we have to protect our lives, our family, and our own sensory health. And we do that, I think, sometimes well by scheduling in stuff. Like, we've got a fire pit, we're going to keep chucking on wood on because now we're not on air, now we're not in front of people, we're going to continue to enjoy it. So yeah, it was a super special moment. We were out there from 4 o'clock till midnight. We would have probably happily carried on till 3 o'clock in the morning, except that we had to get up this morning.
Yeah, amen. Beautiful.
Truly was. I will report back next week about yesterday. No, tomorrow. Oh, it's a Friday. My brain's gone. Next week, I will report about what's happening tomorrow, which will have been last week, next week. Right. Anne Laure Jackson, thank you, of Santé on Jersey. If you want to connect with Anne, you can send her questions. You can get in touch with us. We'll put those to her. Go to the website pure247radio.org, pure247radio.org/ALJ, and you can connect with Anne Laure Jackson on all the amazing stuff she does from Jersey, but serving the entire world. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. See you next time.